Hello crafters, my name is Amy Smith. Welcome to my YouTube channel. We will be making a card featuring a technique I like to call 3D embossing with bokeh. Bokeh is the beautiful blurry background you often see in beautiful photos. It helps to bring attention to the in-focus subject of the photo. Here we'll be using that bokeh to make our 3D object stand out. To start, I have my 4x6 piece of 110-pound cardstock. I have my Altenew Whimsical Bokeh 3D embossing folder, a spray bottle of water, and Lindy's magical powders. I absolutely adore these powders. These are the pot set the powders came in originally. I have transferred mine to some shaker bottles that I had purchased off of Amazon. I did this because I use these powders a lot, and those new containers give me the control I like. However, it is not necessary. You can use a fan brush and dip it into the powder in the pot and then sprinkle it onto your paper where you would like it to go. Now, here I am actually spraying both sides of my 4x6 piece of cardstock that I will cut down later. You'll see that the paper will curl up. This is why I spray down both sides. And as I do that, you'll see that the paper will then flatten. Now, the first material I'll work with is the powders. And I'm going to place the powders onto the paper in the general area that matches the image in the embossing folder. So I looked for where the main flower was, where the leaves could be found, where the smaller flowers are. And I am placing those powders in the corresponding spots. It is not necessary to be perfect. In fact, the randomness of the powders is what gives it an artistic quality. It doesn't look overworked. These are some of my favorite blues that I use. I love to give blue hues in my greenery. It's a personal preference. And you'll see me using that shaker bottle. I love these bottles because they have an inside shaker cover and they have a screw-on lid so I can't spill. I tend to make a mess. When you sprinkle on the powders, try not to do what I just did here and touch it with your finger. You really want the pigments to absorb first into the paper, and you want it to create that dot that starts to feather out in the wet paper, and that's what gives you that bokeh feeling. You want it to feel like there's more flowers, more leaves in the background, but you can't fully identify them because they're blurry. I tend to go with colors that mix well. So I tend to pick a yellow and a blue and a pink that I know will mix well and not create a brown color or what we call mud on the paper. As I'm sprinkling, it might be hard for you to see the powders on my paper. I promise they are there. When the water hits, they will show up. A very little goes a long way. Now with my water bottle, I'm going to spray the water in a direction that helps to fill in the corresponding botanical part. So the pink, I'm expanding a little bit to cover the entire pink flower, that main flower, and I'll point and blur the yellow out a little further and the greens out. You can spray directly up and down as well, 90 degrees to your paper, but spraying to the side gives a little bit more movement to the color. And don't be scared to add more. If you don't like how a color's mixing, just dab it off with a paper towel, as you see that I did here. Now, as I'm working on this, you'll see that I have some white areas available. I don't cover it all. I like to go and add more later if I need to. It's much easier to take away to add more than it is to take away. So here's up close. You can see those beautiful pigment powders. Here I'm placing the paper in the orientation that I had planned for with the colors. So I'm lining up the big center pink area with that big floral in the center, and just making sure that it lines up so when I run it through, it matches. We are going to run this embossing folder through my Spellbinders Platinum 6. I use the base plus the embossing gray layer, and then I add my folder. Now remember, your paper is wet, so some water will be pressed out of the paper, so you will need to make sure that you have a paper towel nearby to mop up some of it, and just make sure you don't have anything around you that could be damaged by water. And there's the water. I always love the reveal right after you put the folder through the Platinum 6. Let's go ahead and see what we did. Oh, this is beautiful. I absolutely love this folder. This is one of my most used folders in my craft room. Okay, so here we are going to add depth and detail to our image. Now I am working on this after the paper has completely dried, and I am taking these blender brushes. These are generic ones that I got off Amazon a long time ago. I believe they're about 1/2 inch in size, and I'm just using these, and I'm in a very gentle manner. I'm getting some ink on there, and then I am pulling them over the raised edge of the image to bring out the detail in the embossing. I will have the colors that I use listed below. Here I'm using Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated inks. I love these inks. I use these and Concord and Ninth in my craft room, and I absolutely love them. Highly recommend them both. And I'm going to speed up this here to keep this video shorter. Between the colors, you'll just see how I'm just paying attention to the colors of the image. Okay, so now I'm going to switch to another color. It's important to remember that this is a very fluid, forgiving technique. It is okay if the ink goes beyond the edges. That actually adds to the bokeh effect because it looks like there's more greenery behind the greenery. But I'm just going lightly. Now you can do this when you have it flat on your surface, or you can hold it up closer just so you can see more detail. I find that with smaller parts or smaller details that I do best when I have it closer to my face. I guess lift it up and then just lightly press, just so I could get more control. And I'm going to speed through all these colors here, and I'll catch up with you after this is done and we switch to the next technique. So now I'm done using the blender brushes for the moment to add the color, and I'm going to switch to alcohol markers. This is the Ohuhu brand. I really enjoy these. I use markers to add color to the tinier details, such as those little flowers. I also often use the greens and the blues to add detail to stems, the veins of leaves, and any other tiny things that it's very hard to get in with a blender brush. I'll go ahead and speed up this in just a second, and you can listen to some lovely music while you watch. So now we have finished with the blending brushes and the alcohol markers. That's my first two layers. I noticed that I wanted a little bit more shimmer and color in the whiter areas of the piece, and so I'm adding a little bit, and I'm using water to help grab onto the powders and to give it some place to settle into. I always spray water first. Now, you're not going to see much of a difference in the video, but I promise that when you look at the card close up, you can see a lot more shimmer and a little pale pink and some more detail than you can see on the video. And if I haven't mentioned this before, this is my very first YouTube video, so please be patient with me as I do learn to do voiceovers for these videos. It is not as easy as it looks. So thank you again for your patience. I'm just looking at this. I love the detail of the embossing. Now I'm going to add Tim Holtz's Distress Glaze. I really love this glaze. It adds more depth to the color. It makes the layers look more visible in a beautiful way. I don't know what it is made of. I absolutely adore this. It can be used to waterproof things, especially if you're doing art on the outside of an envelope. It can waterproof the address so that it doesn't get affected by the elements. However, I'm not using it for waterproofing in this instance. I just love the depth it gives, the color. It's so fabulous. It takes a minute to dry, but once it does, you can't tell. It adds maybe a little shine, but not much. And here this piece is all ready and complete to be put on our card. So I've already cut this down to a 4x4 square. I just trimmed an inch off each side. I have pre-cut a whole bunch of 4x6 cardstock pieces. I like the 4x6 size because it gives me flexibility on making images for my card fronts. I am adding a 3 3/4 size square foam adhesive, double-sided foam adhesive. I really love using the double-sided foam adhesive on the back of my embossed images. It really helps to give the image stability and to straighten it out. And I just used the cap of my Distress Glaze there to help adhere the adhesive to the back of the image. Now, I am not showing this on video, but this is a second piece of paper that I colored with Lindy's Magical Powders and that I added the Distress Glaze to afterwards. And I ran that through this embossing folder from Park Lane. It was a Joann's bargain purchase, but I use it quite a bit. And I ran that paper through my Platinum 6 by Spellbinders. And I'm going to use this piece of paper to add a bottom detail to my card. So here, that second piece I've cut down to a smaller size, and I'm going to assemble my card. I love leaving a 1/8 to 1/4 inch border on my cards. I guess I should say, I don't love big borders. I love more narrow ones. And I'm going to put some weight down after using some art glitter glue on the back to help me with positioning. It just gives you a few seconds of leeway time before the adhesive from the double-sided adhesive takes firm grip of the paper. And I'm adding that same double-sided foam adhesive to the back of this second embossed image. And here I am adding that art glitter glue again to the back. And again, that's just to give you a few seconds to get it placed perfectly on the sheet. Again, I'm just going to weight that down for a second to give the adhesive time to set. I'm now going to add Love from Lizi's strips that she has. I love these. Unfortunately, they are in the United Kingdom, and so it does take a while to get them. They're called peel-offs. They're fabulous. They add just the perfect amount of detail. This is the pinstripes in gold, I believe. And I'm just using my tweezers to help adhere it and wrap the stripe around the back. I'll add a second one to this as well. But you can store the extras back on the sheet without any problem. And here you can see the strips come in various widths so that you can customize it perfectly to your project. And actually, I remember I only put one strip on this one. The previous one that I had worked on as a sample, I put two, but I chose just one on this one. So now I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment. I'm using Kathy Zolski's new set, Hi There, that she designed for Simon Says Stamp. I was just rubbing my finger over the stamp to prime it. This is the first time I'm using this stamp, and so priming it with your finger helps to remove some of the oils from the factory and improve your stamp image. And thanks to the MISTI, I can double stamp without messing up. Just remember to put your piece of paper back into the corner. If you forget to do that, then you will get a double image that is not lined up. Ask me how I know. Definitely took some time to get used to using the MISTI, but once I did, I fell in love with it. I'm going to clean off my stamp here with just a microfiber cloth, and I'm going to cut out the Love Ya sentiment using the coordinating dies from Simon Says Stamp in my Platinum Spellbinders 6. And I'm going to say that wrong. I know it's Spellbinders Platinum 6. I just get a little nervous as I'm speaking in this audio. Perfect. Now I do end up cutting a second layer for this sentiment so that I get a little extra thickness. I love making the sentiment a little thicker, giving it a little bit more dimension so that it stands out more on the card. Now I love positioning so that your design elements point towards your sentiment whenever possible, and so I placed the sentiment in between the draping flowers so that it would frame the sentiment. Now it's time to figure out what bling I'm going to use, and I choose some sequins from This Calls for Confetti. I don't know the color here, but I can tell you that I am a loyal customer for This Calls for Confetti. I have ordered several times from them. Their quality is fantastic. I love their colors. I love the different styles they have. I'm a sucker for the confetti sequins that do not have a hole. Highly recommend purchasing from them. And I'll just go ahead and add in some confetti here. and finish off this card and make sure I got enough on there. I think I'll end up putting 3 on each side. Normally I just do a grouping of 5, but the 2 sets of 3 really seem to help frame it this time. And that's it for my card. I'll show you the pretty picture in just a second, but thank you so much for being with me on my very first YouTube video. I'm sorry for the awkwardness. I hope to get better. A lot of people ask me to share a video of this technique, and this is what I could do as a beginner. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Bye.